Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. I didn't realize my audio was off. I was trying to say good morning when I first came in. So good morning, everyone.
Can you all hear me?
I can hear you
Okay,
now.
good. Thank you. I don't know if you saw my note that I'm going to be dropping off a little early. I have to catch a plane. So
Yeah, I did see that. So, should we say 11:45?
yeah,
Yeah,
probably about well, I'm
okay.
going to have to.
Okay, we can get started. This is the CRT Wheelchair Repair Advisory Council. Thank you all for being here. Um, I just want we had a really good meeting last month until towards the very end of it. And again, I'd just like to ask if the group of members have to add anything to the agenda that we do it before the meeting. A week before is best, but even the day before, just so people have a chance to prepare and to respond to whatever the issue is that we are discussing. I think that we ran out of time last month, and I just felt that we rushed the discussion, and I think that things may have ended up differently had we had more time to discuss properly the issues at hand and the concerns. And also, having said that, also a reminder, if you are submitting a report or anything written that's going to be shared with the council, that is done also a week in advance so that our clerk, Brianne, has time to receive it and to share it with the rest of the council. So I apologize that we did not get the numbers out to you until this morning, but hopefully when both Gary and Diane present the data that they are able to, answer any questions that you may have. And so I'm going to pass this over to my co-chair.
Thanks, Maureen. Good morning, everybody. I echo Maureen's comments. Don't have anything additional to add. So looking forward to the meeting. Thanks, Maureen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the minutes, do we have David? Your hands
Hi, I went over the minutes and I feel like they were a little incomplete and kind of wanted to, I guess, get some things added. I went back and watched the video and I got some timestamps. Just a couple things. Let's see. Just to make sure the when the companies report on staffing levels and compliance data, can we just make sure that those reports are included, I guess, with the with the materials we get? And let's see, and then let's see on 19. All right, so last meeting timestamp 1925 National Sea Mobility reports on compliance data, and it was 87.5% compliance rate. And then on 2849 through 3115 National Sea Mobility staffing levels reported, and wanted that in there. That it has, she had a report on the two branches and the breakdown of the technicians, of road technicians and shop technicians. It was 3 on the road technicians, 1 shop technician at Niantic, and Newington had 8 on the road, 5 in the shop. And on at 3811, I asked about the going rate. National Scene Mobility reported $25 to start, no experience, more experience, it's higher. Let's see, and I don't know, am I giving too much at once, or do you want it all at once, I guess, is the question.
Can I just interject from an administrative point of view that the
Yep.
minutes are not meant to be a transcript?
I'm not saying it's transcript, but there's important information that just wasn't included. We're talking about stuff that's important. Staffing levels are important. Compliance levels are important. That's not included in the minutes. And so I think that that's something that's regularly reported, and I think it should be reflected in the minutes. And it's just not.
Brian, am I correct that the reports provided by New Motion and NSM that they are on the CDA website along with?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I still think it's important. They should be in the minutes.
The information's available, which is the main point, and it directs you to where you can find the information. Like I said, it's not a transcript.
I disagree. I think that the fact that the compliance and staffing levels, when we discuss it and it's part of the discussion, I feel as though it's important to be in the minutes. And I don't think I'm the only one that would say that.
Sheldon.
Yeah, David is not the only one who would say that. I agree. Those two, I mean, that's really so critically important. Compliance data, percentages, and staffing levels, if said, only if said, in the it should be in there. And particularly because there was an error that Diane explained that it had compliance by NSM in the report. It said compliance with the 10 days in home was 12.5%, which of course can't possibly be right. And she explained it was just a transposition error. That it was the opposite. It was the 87. And so that was said orally. That's the kind of thing you really want to have in the record. And another thing is like, David had mentioned this, but, Gary said, all we need is two more. We just need two more and then we'll be all set. That was said in the minutes. I think that's really important for the minutes to reflect that Gary said that.
And if I could just make one other comment, the one thing that's not going to show in the minutes is our amended report, which we sent after the fact, and we need to get that entered into the record because what was then used later were inaccurate numbers, and so we just want to make sure that that is captured as well. But that's not going to show in the minutes, and to Brianne's statement, that shouldn't be a transcript, but the document that we submitted should be entered into the record.
Yeah, I agree. Sarah.
Oop, thank you. I did not mean to turn my video on. I meant to turn my audio on, but here we are now. Good morning. Thank you. Uh, I'm gonna kind of split the difference here and say, I do think that it is important that things such as a note that the NSM numbers were like inverted and that was addressed and noted. That is an important thing to note, perhaps in our minutes. Otherwise, minutes are in fact not a transcript. That's the point of recording things, and otherwise this would be 1,000 pages long. It is extremely important that we do have notes of things like we did discuss staffing levels, we did discuss the reports, and perhaps any high points. We do not need to get into the minutia and the details. That's not what minutes are for. We have a video as long as there is reference to where the information can be found. I think that is sufficient, but where the information can be found is important, and the high points are important, but no, minutes are not a transcript, and that is an unreasonable request. As someone who has taken minutes and been a part of many meetings with minutes, thank you.
Yeah, I think that Rebecca and Brianne are doing an excellent job with the minutes. I do want, I think some of you came on a little bit later, do want to remind everyone that Gary has to leave at 11:45. So we don't want to drag this part out. So what are the suggested amendments to the minutes, Sheldon?
Well, I was going to say, as a process thing to save time about Gary having to leave, could we have it done, table it? Sometimes that's done, and people can send, being conservative about what you ask for changes, but could we do that in writing and then table it till the next meeting, and thus save time? Now, I'm just asking that if that's a reasonable approach.
I think that makes sense.
I think so. And I just, again, I believe that, and Brianne, you can correct me, but I believe that our minutes are the most are pretty much, they're more extensive than most councils, advisory councils. So,
They are the
we
most
just,
detailed minutes of any
yeah.
group,
And
just so
so,
everyone's
and
aware.
we're just making this, more complicated than it needs to be. So if there is a valid, and there seems to be some valid concerns that we want this in the minutes, but we just, this is becoming a beast, so we just really want to be careful about this and not add too much work for everyone.
I will definitely be conservative in my comments, and I do want to reiterate, endorse what Lauren just said. that we greatly appreciate Brianne and Rebecca's work. I mean, it is a beast, and it's been hard for on this, and it was hard for Chandra before. It really is a lot of detail, and we are extremely grateful for the work you guys put into it.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Gary so he can present the data. And again, just acknowledging that we do have amended data that he had sent that has not been shared with the group, the council, and that will be, I guess that will be uploaded. But anyway, just moving forward with this month's data, I think we're going to do that. And Gary, again, if you have any other comments, especially because we did cut the meeting off last month, if you have any final comments on that, please feel free.
Great. Thank you so much. Look, I apologize for any confusion around our data. We tried to do a data pool where we applied some formulas and trying to automate it just like Diane. And unfortunately, there were errors in the formula, which caused some issues in the data. But we did submit updated data, which presented a much better picture, not perfect, not where we want to be or where we're going to be, around our compliance levels. And what it came down to is, I believe I don't have the updated one in front of me right now, but it was somewhere around 56 to 57% of compliance for on the road service, 100% compliance on remote service, and 88% compliance for in-shop service. Now I understand, Sheldon, you say, well, that's, inherently causing, a picture of, driving people to the branch or forcing people to the branch. This is just what the data is today. Okay. It doesn't mean we are not systematically attempting to be better with our in the road service. One of the things I would like to add is that our staffing level, we were down 2 technicians in January and December. We now have, let me pull that data back. Let me first give you the February results. February results, and it's in the record as the documents have been submitted. We are 60% compliant with the on the road service in the home service. We are 100% compliant on remote and 88% compliant in shop. Now, the one thing I do want to add is relative to the number of orders. That's based on a pool of roughly about 400 orders that we completed in the month of February. And so if you take the number of orders that are within 1 or 2 days of compliance, we are really close. We can be at 70, 80, 90% pretty quickly. And that leads me to the discussion around our staff, because that's what's going to allow us to get there. In the end of February and through the month of March, we have now added 2 additional techs. We have one that completed training and is now on the road, that just went on the road last week. We have another one who just started and is entering a 4-week training program and will be on the road probably by the middle of April. So what that brings us to is we have seven service techs hired today, plus 1 trainee, so that's 8. And then we also have our 5 seating techs, our 4 production techs, 3 warehouse techs, and 1 delivery tech, which is ultimately somebody that goes out and picks up and delivers chairs for service, which gives us 20 full-time employees that have some capacity to do service, plus 1 trainee. So by the end of April, we'll have 21 total FTEs that have access to service. 8 of those will be fully committed, 100% committed to service. Plus, we brought another technician from New York into Connecticut, which gives us another full-time, so that's roughly 8 service techs they're fully trained and in the field right now. Now, we had 2 in-shop service techs that are part of that pool. We have now moved our second in-shop service tech out to the field, so we only have 1 for in-shop. So now we have roughly 7 times the number of techs out in the field as opposed to in-shop. So I hope that eliminates some of the concern around staffing. We feel that this is sufficient staff to get us caught up. I expect that we will be, within the high 80s to 90% by the end of April, by the time we can fully catch up on our backlog. Any questions?
Sheldon.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. One of the problems, as always, has been the need for uniform definition of text, right? Between you and NSM, that's been an ongoing issue. And in fact, I know the bill pending before the legislature requires that there be a uniform definition and that be applied. But the other thing is the distinction between FTEs and real. Since a year and a half ago, you've been reporting you have 16, 17, 18, 19 staff. And then here you're saying, 20. But last time you gave us a much more, I think, meaningful document. And you showed it during the screening. You said you would send it to us afterwards, unless the chairs got it. I didn't see it. That actual document you were looking off, and that gave FTEs. And you went through it and carefully with us, which we greatly appreciated. And your conclusion was that you had 7.1 FTEs actually, so the equivalent of 7.1 full-time people actually doing repairs, not something else. And that's the number that really matters. And so
that brings us, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, I think that's the number that really matters. And so can you apply that analysis you applied last time to these 20 and give us what your FTE is today?
Yeah, it would be roughly 9.3 right now. It would be 9.3 full-time service capacity, which puts us two technicians higher. And plus we have one in training. So, this and Sheldon, that's a fluid number. And I caution us to use that. It gives us a ballpark, but I caution to use that because for instance, our ability to use seating techs for more service if they have time to do service, that's going to vary month to month. I can't state that on those percentages that I used to generate that number was a static number at that point in time. And we do load shift. Okay. So I can't, I gave you the total number of bodies that I have available to do service. I told you the ones that are 100% committed. What I can't tell you is how much I use in a production tech or a seating tech or a warehouse tech for service beyond a certain point. Because if we have somebody that's a hard down and, we'll grab whatever body we can to send them out. And so it's a variable number. And I understand the bill states that we need to get to a definition of a technician. And I'll be honest, I don't know how you're going to get there. I really don't, because these are people with different skill sets at different titles in our organization. And again, NSM looks at it differently than we do. A technician is a technician is a technician. They, theoretically all have the same skill set and they all do the same job. Now, and again, I'm speaking for Diane and I shouldn't, but I'm theorizing that what NSM does is their technician can go out on the road for part of the day, can be doing delivery of a complex rehab wheelchair for part of the day, and can be in the shop part of the day, or could be doing production part of the day. What we do is we have defined people in each of those roles. Okay. And then we staff accordingly based on that. But we do try cross-train people that they can do other roles in the field. So I don't, we make a business decision to do it one way. NSM makes a business decision to do it another way. It's, at the end of the day, it depends on how many, what your actual service capacity is. And what I'm telling you is we've increased our service, or we will, by the middle of this month, the middle of April, have increased our service capacity by 2 full bodies. So, and that's 100% service capacity.
So to clarify, then you're seeing that by the middle of the month you'll go from you said 9.3 to 11.3.
No, you missed my starting point. We were today, I'm really at about 8.3. When my one person comes off training, we'll be at 9.3. Okay.
So that's the mid-April figure you're saying?
Yes.
So that's
which is two above where we were last month. because I think I said 7.1. And again, that's, if I were using people out of other areas, I brought a guy in from New York who's helping us. And then we're going to utilize our seating techs. And the other thing we're doing, and I said this in my summary that I submitted, we are again stocking the top 70 parts, so we don't have an order time. We don't have a manufacturer wait for that. And what we are now doing is any order in Connecticut will be ordered at the time of assessment. We're going to go ahead and order the parts and not wait for the authorization. Whenever it's not, I know the last bill says no authorizations, but Diane and I both know that in reality there are payers that still require authorization, and there's still a Medicare requirement for certain documentation that we have to do. So, but we're going to go ahead and order the parts and eliminate that wait time in the time frame. So, I believe we are exhibiting the required commitment and a genuine effort to improve our service here. And while our existing numbers and our data doesn't show us be there, I am confident that as we get into April, you will see a significant improvement.
Thanks. One suggestion is that, we don't know what that bill's ultimately going to say, but it does call for some kind of uniform, assessment of what is, and I don't think that bill or even the attention of anybody is to change the business practice of how you assign people, your staff, but we just want a metric that works across the board. So one option is you do sort of what you did last time, Gary, which is FTE, people doing actual repair work. And then it doesn't matter how many you have or what their classification is. You just maybe, the middle of the month, on the 15th of each month or the last, whatever it is, and as you say, because it fluctuates, and it may fluctuate differently from each of the companies, and that's just the way it is. But if there's a uniform date, a uniform FTE definition, and it's people doing repairs, there'd be some basis for a reasonable comparison.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to speak for Diane, but it's we would have to go to every single order to find out which tech did it, which that creates a lot of I can give you a pretty good swag on an end of the month basis. It's not going to be exact number, and if you're looking for an exact number, I'm not sure Diane could even get that for you. But I can. What I'm telling you is, kind of where we are today, or where we were last month, where we are today, and where we expect to be in a month from now. And at the end of the day, what really matters, staffing really doesn't matter if we get to compliance. If we get to compliance and we meet the numbers that you want, staffing really is not significant. Because if we've reached a point of capacity where we can keep ourselves in compliance and keep the orders flowing and keep people serviced in the timeframes that's required by the bill, staffing is a secondary issue.
Well, I think we agree on that, except for the fact that nobody believes that we can get to that compliance without the staffing. So it's kind of circular.
Well, I mean, and I'm going to agree to disagree with you, Sheldon, because I think we're adding the numbers you wanted, right? I'm adding I'm 2 people more than I was last month in a 100% committed capacity. And logic tells me that if I was at 57%, I'm at 60% right now in the field. If you average it all out at my 88 and 100% with my in-shop and my remote, we'll be able to get there because our in-field number is going to come up significantly if I have 2 more bodies out on the road, and that's 2 more bodies, 2 more trucks, 2 more everything. So we're making a significant commitment here. And for anyone in a public venue to say that we're systematically being non-compliant, I think that's an untruth. And we're doing everything we can. We're making significant investment. And even in my presentation during the hearing, I talked about all the investments we made in buying additional product, technology in the phone systems, and technology in our routing software that that is being ignored. And, I am genuinely trying to be better and take care of people more quickly. And I think there are people on this committee who have called me personally when they've had issues where we've gotten things done quickly that tends to be ignored. And so I don't, I tend to take this personally because for 40 years, I've done nothing but advocate for taking care of our customers. And, I just want everybody on this committee to understand that we are committed. New Motion is committed to being better.
All right, thank you. I do have a question, Diane. Would you agree with that characterization that the way that are your techs are going to be are multitasking, whereas New Motion has dedicated technicians for certain roles?
Well, we all have technicians that do certain titles. Like Gary said, you're going to have a warehouse tech, you're going to have a senior tech, he has seating and whatever. Those are a little bit different from what we call ours, right?
Yeah.
And when you get to my summary report, what I kind of talk about staffing and some of the other things that what Gary's speaking to that the teams are doing, we go out and get it done, right? So whatever's on that plate for that day, if you remember last month, I made a comment I had just because of how this is, even with routing and whatever you have software and programs, because of time frames, I had 3 technicians that had to be on top of each other in the same locations practically because to meet the timeline frame. So it's a lot of manual process that I had to invest. I had to invest in more admin people on top of staffing to make this work in accordance to the bill outlines, right? So this is a little bit different than what all the things that go into it. And when I do my report, because I know there's people who have had their hands up for quite a while, I'll go into a little bit more detail on that.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank
You betcha.
David.
Thank you. To clarify, so you have 7 full-time on the road, 1 in the shop currently, and then 1 training. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then how many job openings are you trying to fill right now currently?
We should have 1 open right now. We have 1 requisition that's an evergreen. I know somebody went on the site last time and claimed that we did not have it. Apparently, what happened at the end of the year, we were doing our budgeting. Somebody in our HR department took down the requisition. We reactivated it, and there should be an open requisition out on the open right now.
So it'd be like, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So the 1 opening you get another on the road tech. That's what you're trying to fill. You're not going to try to go to is it 2? You want to get 2 more, another in shop and another on the road, or just another on the road?
No, I'm trying to be ahead of attrition because
right.
Data tells me I'm going to lose one of these people that I have. I believe 9 people on the road or 9 people doing service, whether they're on the road in the shop, is the right number for us. It could be 8, depending on backlogs. I'm saying today what we need to get the backlog caught up. I feel like that's the number, and that's what data tells me is the number from a productivity standpoint. And then we want to keep an open requisition because we lose 20% on an annual basis. And so, if we have a constant pool because one of the things I spoke to previously is our inability to recruit. And if we keep a constant pool of candidates out there, then we should be able to fill the open roles more quickly. Now, keep in mind, there's a 4-week lag time on training. Now, fortunately, sometimes we were able to take a technician who has experience. Now, unfortunately, that's also sometimes at the expense of Diane, or we trade people back and forth all the time, which that never gets captured in the mix because we have people that jump from one company to the other, then go back. But we are genuinely trying to stay out ahead of attrition and to keep our productivity out there.
So the numbers that you're trying to get for staffing, is this based on the assumption that you're going to maintain 70% in-home service and 30% in the shop? Is that what you're trying to figure out? Like, that's why does this, kind of, I don't want to say push, but the assumption that you're trying to get more people in a shop? Because I think what you said is a 70-30 split, right? Or am I incorrect?
No, it's 70. We've got 7 on the road and 1 in the shop
No, no,
right now.
no. 70% of your repairs are done in the home, 30%
Correct.
are done in the shop, correct?
Actually, that number is lower. Our in-shop rate is about 23% right now. So that takes you to 77% in the home. We probably are going to stay steady at that number in Connecticut because that's what the customer base is telling us. We do have other states. We have other states where we do upwards of 60% in the home. I mean, excuse me, in shop service because the customers love coming to our location. Not because we force them to. They actually have decided to come in.
Okay. There was something else you brought up. Darn it. Can't remember. I had another point. I'll circle back.
We'll go to Becky and we can
Yep.
come back.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Becky.
Good morning, all. So I'm new to the group, so bear with me, please. I don't know what was shared in the beginning and what wasn't, and I'm sure you had lots of conversations about how you put all the data together. And I know that because of the bill and because of the law, there's a reason why, the community, home care, and SNFs are all gathered together. And I noticed that when I was reviewing the data with Diane and Gary, I know that we talked about it last time too. It's really useful, I think, for myself, through OHA to understand like what the barriers might be for. So if we could maybe break the data out, like the skilled nursing facility, are you not getting in? Are they, making you only come on one day of the week or one day of the month? So it may not even just be staffing, right? It could be those other issues too that we're not even speaking about here, which I think is really, really important and valuable because I know in my work, we get a lot of pushback and you're talking about the authorizations and, maybe they don't need to have authorizations in the law states. They don't have to have authorizations anymore, but you may be getting pushback too from the insurance companies where, I'm handling that on a constant basis where I'm calling the insurance companies and the providers and saying, that doesn't have to happen. So there may be, I don't know, if we could maybe start reporting out on those numbers on the skilled nursing facilities and breaking those out, if you would find that useful. I think it would be useful
It's in
for me
there,
because
Becky. It's in the
I
reports.
know you did, Diane, right? But I don't think,
Yeah.
Gary, if you'd be willing to too, if just break them out and like I know Diane, you put like what was happening, like you, I read that little piece of it, and to me that was so important, like scheduling conflicts or something like that, right? And then so maybe if I could even help, like if you needed some, like and maybe there's a mediation with the skilled nursing facility or something like that, because obviously we're a team here, right? And we're here to be a coalition to have success. Not just pounce and say different things but work together, and it could be a bunch of things, right? You identify a staffing issue, but then if we can also identify that there's maybe in the homes or something like that, they is a scheduling conflict or they're not home on that time. That's understandable, right? We can kind of understand that because there's some disabilities and the like. But if there's people, providers that are working and they're just putting barriers in your way, that's going to be a barrier for you, Gary and Diane, to be able to come back with these numbers. And so I don't know what you all thought about that, but that's what my takeaway was. And I tried to raise my hand last time because I didn't understand why those numbers weren't broken out. But I realized after reviewing the law that they all are congregated together. And so you don't necessarily have to report out on those numbers. But I think as far as meeting those success rates and helping you shine, that might be a great way to start doing that. I'm curious to see what you all think.
Yeah, I'm happy to add that, and I think I spoke to it the last time that we have a much less a smaller number of our customers are in SNFs than NSMs. I think we're under 10% from our service. But yes, that is a challenge for us because a lot of SNFs only let us in once a month or once every couple of weeks, and so we have to route everything for all those people in that SNF and try to consolidate all the service in that one facility to one driver one time, and that changes the scheduling, and it's it's a balancing act of scheduling, and so I don't know if enough people really understand what we go through on a daily basis to balance where people live with trying to get to them quickly and making sure we are compliant and getting them fixed in the quickest way possible. So I think we do okay. I'm not saying we're great. I think we do okay in the current state, and we're going to get better.
Well, that sounds, and if either of you need assistance as long as like navigating the insurance claims or with the providers. Obviously I'm on board to help out. I've been meaning to reach out to you all. I've been sick for the last 3 weeks. I've been out very often, not out, but just I lost my voice and a bunch of other things. So I haven't really been able to do the outreach I wanted to do with y'all, but I'm more than happy to jump in any way that I can help advocate, and obviously meet those, numbers with you. And because I'm getting the reports of people calling it. It's been, I don't know if I can jump in now really quick. It's just been very limited, but I can give you an update. I don't have any new cases right now. But I definitely, we have a obligation and a desire to assist and to help and to aid and to make this as, most successful as we can for the state of Connecticut and for our consumers, right? So that's our mission at OHA, and that's why I'm glad to be part of this group. So utilize me. You have my email, contact me if you need me, or if you need some advocacy, I can help out too. So just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate it.
Ew. David.
Okay. So the thing I was going to bring up was that your numbers, I guess, improved based on you're able to pull out data and about rescheduling and how many people are like rescheduling based on just when they get the notification and it's just like the time doesn't work or whatever, and then they have to reschedule. Like that's the reason for the improvement, right? Is that what I understand
Well,
correctly?
no, it's the reason for the improvement is that it captured the numbers. We manually went back and looked at every order. What we try to do is take our data set of repairs that were completed in the month and then apply a formula that went in and captured, kind of scheduled initiation date of the order and then completion date and taking out all the things in between, which is off time, um, manufacturer shipping time, and all those things that are not part of the calculation. But what comes that it came down to is there was an error in the formula, and because it's not a straight line, and because there's customers that reschedule on us and things like that, it was impossible for us um, to get the formula to work right, and we're still working on it. But we went actually manually, order by order, through 400 orders and talked through, okay, when was the order started? When did we get the authorization if it was necessary? Otherwise, it went right to purchase. And how long did the parts take here to get here? And then we manually did it. Now, what's tough to capture because we have to go through every order and even look in the notes in the order because our system doesn't capture a reschedule unless there's a note in there that says this person said they couldn't make it on this date. We had to reschedule for 2 weeks later. We manually had to go in and catch that. And that's what we did for February numbers and the restated January numbers. And that's what we're going to do moving forward, so that we are accurate and until we can get a formula in our business intelligence tool that works properly.
Okay. You also mentioned that you went back to well, I don't know if New Motion or technically ATG did it, but you did in the past, you would pre-order things so it would cut down time. And I'm really happy to hear that you're doing that again because that's going to save a lot of time for people. Have you kind of figured out how much time that's going to save in the process and how that's going to improve service and your numbers?
Yeah. Well, we figure on a current, and this was a problem we had in December and January because our manufacturer's delivery time spiked at about 7 days on the average. So and normally it takes about 2 weeks to get a part in, and on the average today. So it'll save, now remember, this isn't a linear process, right? It's, there are other things in the mix, but with scheduling and things like that. But on a linear basis, I'd say it's going to take 7 days out of the process to be safe and understanding the variances.
And you're going to be doing that for everyone?
Yes.
And it's actively you started. When did you start doing that again?
It's starting this week.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see the change in your compliance numbers then moving forward based on that one
Yeah.
change back to what you used to do, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it may not show significant. We're going to be improved in March, but I think April you're really going to see a significant improvement in New Motion's performance. By the time we get the other techs fully trained, the other tech fully trained on the road, by the time this, eliminating the wait time for parts occurs, I think you're going to see a significant improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions for Gary? Okay, see none. Thank you so much, Gary, and
Thanks,
have a safe
folks. Appreciate
flight.
your patience.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
we got right on time, so thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, now Diane, we'll hear from NSM.
Thank you. So I gave February and March through basically through Friday's numbers for you guys for our reporting. So I'll go over the February report really quick just to kind of highlight where we're at. Overall in the home repairs within that 10-day window, we had an 88.7 or 87.8% compliance, 100% remote, and 100% in the branch, or 89% in the branch. When you look in March, we had, let me go back to this. Sorry, I'm toggling between my two reports. 91% in the home within that 10-day window, 100% in remote, and 100% in the branch compliance. What I do want to do is, like I always do with these reports, I like to go over my summary, which seems to be the most prevalent thing for everyone that has questions about. What I outlined, where are we at with orders, where are they at in the SNFs, how many are in the SNFs, how many were missed due to scheduling or client requests. I put that on there. We had 9% respectively, and 9%, 9.2% where we cannot meet the timelines for scheduling in that. When I look at what we are seeing improvement on too is our manufacturing days to get the PO orders in and evaluation. We still struggle with some of that. That's really when the techs are out in the field. They see what they need to do. They're taking an extra day to put some of that stuff in. Also, we're getting an extra day still waiting back from manufacturers to give us a quote for the part that is needed that we need to put into the system. So some of that's still being worked on. It's come down quite a bit, but still, I think this is an area we still need to work on, just between the manufacturers and ourselves, and making sure our techs, once they're done with their day, put that paperwork in our systems to get those things also out. So we have some other steps that we're putting in to improve that on there also. I did put out the breakout exactly all the locations on that. Now, here's one thing I wanted to bring up, which is new in the report. And this is to the point that some of the things that Gary was bringing up and some of the things that our field team are doing on a regular basis. And that's called what we call no charge or no, it's not a repair, right? These are things like, let's say my client gets a new piece of equipment or they have something wrong, the chair's not, it's working fine, but they want adjustments, or we need to go in and drop off something new, or they want something else added, or something that's not chargeable, it's not a problem, it's functioning at. We call those like adjustments. We tag them as no bill appointments. And I think it's kind of important because sometimes this gets missed, right? Not only are we doing repairs, but all this is also part of that process. When I started tracking these, and typically we have on average anywhere between 85 to 95 a month that we're doing it. Our techs are doing in between these other repair visits too. So again, data points, again, this seems to be something that everyone wants to know every time, every single thing we're touching in the field. I'm reporting that for you guys, so you have it. Staffing, we're challenged. The reason why I think we didn't miss our 90-some% that we wanted for the month that we're heading towards, we lost a technician in one of our branches. We have two ones in our Niantic locations. We have 2 active road techs right now, 2 techs in training, one that just started. So our training is not 4 weeks like Gary shared. Our training is a little bit longer. It's actually about an 8-week program for our people to get really, they'll shadow after a couple of weeks, but they take a while because we really want to make sure they understand before we send them out on the road on their own. One tech, though, I think in our Niantic location, I don't think they're going to work out. They're not performing to the level that we need, and more than likely we're going to be letting them go. But just to give the numbers on that, we have 12 dedicated people that are on the road in Niantic location, 2 in training, one in shop, and we have one right now on medical leave, which also was unexpected. That's also why I think we struggled a little bit in February going into March with our shortages. We do have postings for jobs. We do not take those down, to the point that Gary brought up. We're always going to be trying to overhire because the turnover is a little bit higher in this platform for us as our company. And then we also have in our Newington branch, we have, in shop 4, 1 tech supervisor, 7 road techs in total. The other tech that we also have out because of medical that was planned till April 1st. And 1 road tech in shop and 1 open position. We do, because when we had some of these shortages in that, we are pulling 2 of our technicians from the Massachusetts market to come over and help out where we can in some scheduling and that. So that's kind of how we're trying to keep that afloat until we find people and hire them in. So I kind of went through that really, really quick. But we're, 90s is what we're targeting, above, of course, above 90 is what we're expecting to be. Where we ever be 100%, I have a feeling that I don't think we'll ever hit 100% in the home, only because of things like this that you have. If we lose a staff, if we have someone that's out on sick leave, we have something get scheduled, then we have to reschedule things. I'm concerned that, to be 100%, will it ever hit that 100% in the home number? I don't know, only because of the reality of what we're dealing with at times. Now, to go back to those days, those ones that we missed, that 9 to 10% was, how much did we miss it by? 1.8 average day miss. So it's not like we're adding weeks to this. We're not adding a bunch. We're missing like a day, and at 1.8 is what it came out to when I saw our average miss. So it's not 10 days of when we are missing it, pretty much around 12 days that we're hitting it. So we're heading in the right direction. We continue to go in the right direction. It's still a lot of manual process. Our IT systems now are able to grab all those little things that we had, some of those little nuances about that. So, but we've had that, tweaked, and that's for the past 2 months, and it's fully operational now. Our 1 dedicated admin person, she's the one that's overseeing where we're going to miss a potential window of each of those steps of the bill. We have intervention in some of the manual process that we're doing to kind of reroute some of those things. And I see, David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just what's the total between your 2 branches? What's the total again? What's the total on the road technicians and the total in shop technicians?
It's in that summary. Hold on, let me go back to it. I just closed it out.
I don't have it in front of me, so
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I have 12 for Niantic on the road dedicated, 1 in training, because there should be 13 for the Niantic branch. And then for the Newington, we have 7 road techs. I have 1 out right now. So technically
19 total.
Yep. 12 for the Niantic and 8 total for, it's what we should have for the road dedicated right now. And like I said, we're down a couple right now, and that's why we're struggling to hit that higher 90s that we're trying to target for.
You said 19 on the road, 2 and 6 in shop.
Yeah,
between your 2.
6 and 1 and 1. It's 6 and 1 and 1 in shop in the other. So total 7 in shop.
So 7 in shop, 19 on the road between your 2 places.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And plus 2 admin people also on top of all of this.
Thank you.
Did you have another question, David? Your hand's still up. Okay, thank you. Sheldon?
Yeah, thanks, Diane. Thanks, as always, for detailed information here. I was just looking at the ratio of in-shop to staff to on the road, tied to your very high and I think appropriate percentage of your repairs that are done in the home, which is like 91, I think was the last.
It's higher than that, Sheldon. We've had very few in the branch. I'm talking like handful, if we're
But yeah, I think it was like 5%, and then the remote was the, okay. So given that, my question though is just the breakdown of the ratio. So for Niantic, you have 12 techs on the road and 1 in shop. But for Newington, if I read this right, you have 7 road techs and 4 in shop, which is a very different ratio.
Yeah, because we have some of them building the chairs for both locations at times. And so that's also what we're doing. So if we get new equipment, sometimes between 2 locations, we'll have the in-shop techs there putting those new chairs together. So keep that in mind. A lot of times your in-shop person You got a warehouse person that's going to be one in shop, right? So then you're going to have like our other location, because we don't do a ton of that. We're basically sending everybody out. I mean, let's just face it, we're sending everybody out. And then the other location is basically doing some of the seating, some of the arrangements, building the back and seats for those chairs, building the new equipment that is coming in, because that takes quite a bit, right? Those things don't always come all composed. You got to put parts and pieces together. So when you're looking at that, we have it set up that way. And then what we have too is some of those things are doing some of the assistance between the both locations, but we haven't reported out of that for compliance reasons. Where is their paycheck coming out of, right? Which location? Make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, so maybe your point is that maybe we should look globally at the ratio of in shop versus on the road.
Yep.
Just one comment about what the fact that you're not, you may never get to 100%. I don't personally, this is just me speaking, I don't think it's reasonable to have 100%
No.
compliance. That's
Yeah.
not, in the nature of human beings and everything that goes on. I think 100% compliance would be really difficult. And I acknowledge that in the council recommendation, we didn't like give the give on that, but the bill that's pending now, we didn't write it, but it says 95%.
Yeah, and that's going to be a struggle. And I'll be honest with you guys, if it goes to that, we're going to have to relook at what we're doing, because we're doing everything under the sun to try to get to, as high as number percentage that we can. But the reality is, if you lose a staff, if someone goes out sick, you lose one day, it moves those numbers. And it's super easy to, when I looked and saw where we missed, and like I said, we're missing 1 or 2 days, 1.8, Sheldon, when we do miss it, 1.8 days. And I'm like, dang it. It's like, if you're within a certain threshold of that, like, it'd be one thing if we were a week, 2 weeks out of compliance, right? When we do miss it, that's one thing. But if we're only missing it by a day and a half or 2 days, and you're still going to get punished for that, it's going to make me, and I'm just saying hypothetical, make me relook at what our service locations and what we're actually going to do for the state. We're a provider, we're a willing provider. We may have to look at what our credentialed locations are going to be, what's our true service area is going to be able to accommodate to hit to the 95 plus. It may need to be looked at that way, because it is a point where you can't, it's detrimental. I mean, it's to the point where you're never going to be able to hit it, and then you're going to get punished on top of it when you're already struggling enough to get staff and contingent staff and routine staff. I just lost our top tech to a pharmaceutical company there because the warehouse is a less pressured job, and I couldn't keep him. And this is someone that's been with us for 13 plus years because he's just frustrated with everything right now. And I don't want that to happen, but unfortunately, that's the reality we're dealing with right now.
Okay. I do want to acknowledge, though, that you're at 91% for March, which is pretty close to 95. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but Sheldon, come on. When you put penalty language on there, just looking to sue us on top of it, what's going to entice another provider to come into this marketplace? That's what I want. I want help in this. There's too few of us doing this business. And it's not getting better. It's getting worse. We keep the few that are out there now, we're hearing someone might just pull out of that marketplace because of this. That's not what we want. I don't want that. I want more people doing this.
Well, that may not be realistic, but thank you for your
well, I know it's not realistic. I mean, no one wants to come in. They haven't come in this business for a long time. You got 2 big dogs standing now, and not because we're being greedy to go out and buy everybody else, because people can't do it anymore. So, Becky.
You're
You're
muted.
muted.
That's the worst. I'm sorry about that. Are you finding at all that you're hitting barriers with skilled nursing facilities? Do they say like you only can come in once a month or something like that?
Well, we're heavy. Yeah, we're the heavier skilled nursing facility location. If you see in that summary report, it's not terrible. It's just because of the days that they have staffing. It's when I can say this because I was a nursing home administrator for years before I went into the space. you got to have enough staffing to come in and do everything they have in alignment to dedicate to get those chairs and those people ready to go, get them set up another one, whatever repair needs to be due. And a lot of times, especially during the time of COVID, with everything that happened, they now have set days and times that they have people coming in to do those type of services. And it's usually weekly. Usually it's like once a week or every other week that we have, depending on what nursing facility it is and how they have it set up for their staff. Because they typically will bring in an extra CNA in for that day too, to help out with that too. So it's them coordinating that to be able to be attentive to do what they got to do on top of taking care of everybody else, right? So it's, in their defense, I understand why they're doing it. Because they have to be able to keep everything going, but accommodate what needs to be done when we're in there working on those chairs for those clients, right? Or working with the therapist. If the therapist only has certain days, let's say they're doing something joint and they need to get back, follow up with the PT or OT, and the PT OT is only scheduled 2 times a week in the facility, only on certain days they have time to do this. So it's a coordination. So not to disparage the nursing field. It's a challenge that they're under, right? I get it. And then if you have some that are closing, some that they're dealing with or trying to struggle with that, trying to rotate stuff on right now, it's a problem with that. But a lot of times we've asked and reached out to all of them saying, hey, can we do this extra? And they say it's just a matter of how they work on their end. So it's, you know, to not to disparage them. And then we're also looking at, well, can we have it loaner, or do they have something there that would work for the client? We can go pick up the chair. We've asked those type of things to bring them back to the shop to repair them and bring them back to the person. So we're looking at all of those things. And those are some of the things that we'll do. We'll just send a tech out to go pick it up if we can, and do that and bring it back, depending on what's going on with the facility, with the client in the facility.
Well, if you need me, like I said, I'm putting it out there just as a resource.
Yeah, and it's not a
if anything should happen,
yeah,
you know?
I mean, I appreciate it, but the reality is we got to make sure we're working with what they can do too, right? And they have more hands-on care to help out for the client, hopefully. So they have some other backup equipment in that they have if it works for the client. Hopefully they're not stuck in bed, but they shouldn't be, because they're supposed to get them up every 2 hours. I know the rules and regs very well. What you have. And the other thing is, when it comes to the private commercial plans with the pre-A removal, you're not going to be able to do anything about that. That has to come higher up than you. I hate to say that to you, but
that's all right.
you know, the 30-40% of, you know, the primary care, the primary insurance that we deal with, whether it's UHC or Aetna or Cigna or somebody else, they're not going to let us go without a prior author or documentation, right? That's going to require for it. We have to do those, but
Diana, I can offer this though. If you hit a barrier, like say for instance, you're getting a, you know, hit like a delay with UHC or a delay with Anthem or something like that. Those
but you can't, you don't, but this bill doesn't have the authority to tell the private insurance.
No. I'm saying we can kick in. That's where we are. So you can have them file a complaint with us, you know, with the OHA office, and I can get involved, right? So I can help assist. So that way to help you, you know, obviously, you know, like
trust me, they hear all this. They hear about prior. I mean, we've had meetings, and I'm meeting with CMS on the silliness of the RX rule. You know, you already established medical need. Why do you need an RX every 12 months on file for repair? I mean, it's established. It's going to be needed for the next 5 years, no matter what. But I mean, these are things that we as a company are actually speaking to too. I mean, I've been in DC so many times now this past year. I feel like I'm a frequent flyer there now. But these are things that, you know, we'll continue and keep doing and keep working it. I mean, but my biggest help I need, Becky, is I need staff. I want more staff. I want more qualified staff that stays long enough in the position and not have to rotate out. I mean, that's the hardest thing, but that's not just us. I mean, I think that's in general everywhere. I have yet to see a single legislator I've talked to that doesn't have labor shortages, right? Everyone's dealing. And then keeping them long enough to stay in that, to get really skilled, right? It's a skill set to get to know these chairs over time. It takes, you know, it takes a couple of years to become a senior tech, because there's a lot, you know, when we have 8 different manufacturers and parts, that's a lot to learn. So, but I appreciate it. Dave, I see you have your hand up again.
Is the average wait times, the minimum maximum wait times, are they significantly higher for people in nursing homes and facilities versus people that are living out in the community? And like, what's the difference? Because I looked at the chart and it's not broken down like that, obviously, but I'm curious, like, are these delays, like these people, you're only able to go in so many days, like certain
Right.
days, right?
Right.
Are
So
these
it
people
depends on the
waiting
time.
longer?
Yeah, David, I would say it would be a week on average. I would say there might be a week difference between a nursing home client.
Extra, like more extra?
Yeah. If that, sometimes it's 3 to 5 days when I looked at the numbers and alignment where we're missing. So when I looked at the nursing homes, it was probably anywhere between 3 to 5 days because of how they're scheduled in the facility. Whereas when I looked at the misses for our ones that are in the home, it was like 1 or 2 days. If
And
that makes sense for you.
and is there, you said you're trying to work with these facilities to get them in quicker, but
Yeah.
I mean, is how much of a reality is that? Are they really going to limit you? Are they
The
going to
reality
say,
is they're not going to change a heck of a lot, to be honest with you. But that's why I'm going to keep reporting it like I am on the summary for you all, so you know how many numbers it is of our total. And again, I understand they have their staffing, they have to do their setups. They got to be, protective of their facility too, and do things according to their schedules.
okay, thank you.
Right, do we have any further questions for Diane? Right, moving on, I know you
All right.
said you didn't have any anything to report, Becky, but is there anything else that you want us to say, to report on?
Well, there was one thing that had come up. I know that we had talked about it, that being a bear. I don't know if I brought it up last month or not, but it's something that came up with some of the people that are calling, putting in wheelchair repair complaints. And one of the factors is that they don't like our ROI, or release of information, because it's 4 pages long. It really pertains to OHA with insurance and the like. So what they're looking for, and we were thinking about, was maybe creating a 1-page HIPAA release that would give me availability to be able to speak with you, Diane, or with Gary, or not necessarily you all, but to interface with you all, give me permission and not have to go through insurance, because it's a lot of times they're calling in, it's not an insurance claim. They're just like trying to figure out what's going on with their chair, but I don't have permission to talk to anybody if I don't have a release of information unless we call together. So, and they're saying that they don't want to fill out the 4-page form. So I didn't know if this council would be willing or to come up with a 1-pager, just basically saying that whomever's on that list has permission to go ahead and speak to somebody on behalf of that person trying to get their wheelchair repaired. And just a generic form, not a specific form to either facility, so that way nobody has to give proprietary information or anything like that. But it's just something that I was brainstorming about with my team, because it seems to be a barrier. I'm curious what y'all think.
So what would you need from the council to do this, to get this done?
Well, it would be a council form, so it wouldn't be the OHA's form per se, so it would more so be anybody who's filing a complaint. So it would just be like, maybe we all work together to come up with some form, an agreement of what terms and regulations or information we want on that one form. It just really needs to be a 1-pager, just giving authority to speak, right? And I think it would give them, the people calling, the complainants, more of a voice, and they might have some more success, I think, working through those claims, because right now it's just a reporting aspect. They're just making the reports, but there's no follow-up necessarily, because they don't want to go forth and they don't want to fill out those forms. So it kind of limits our hands on what we can do. So it's a barrier, I guess, to care and to follow up. So I'm putting it all out to you.
Okay, and so it would be a council form?
Well, I mean, or you have to at least approve, so I
Oh,
guess
okay, yeah, all
I'd
right.
really need, Diane and Gary's buy-in too, because it would be a form that I'd present to their, facility to like talk and follow up or make phone calls. So I guess it would have to be a group effort. That would be my expectation, at least. But I defer to y'all and see what you think. But I'm really just brainstorming right now and just trying to come up with some ideas on how to make this more successful with the people calling in, to get them the outcomes that they're looking for, and to get more of a, a positive reach, that I'm not able to do right now because unfortunately my hands are tied because they don't want to fill out the ROI that we have on our list. Oh, and then I also wanted to let you all know that coming soon, we're going to have a forum dedicated just to, I think I talked about it a little bit last time, just to wheelchair repair complaints. And so that's going to be out within the next day or a couple weeks. So as soon as that comes out, I'll let you all know, and then we can go through it. I can, take you through the website on one of the meetings or something like that and let you all know how it works and what the updates are. But that should be coming soon. So I want to share that as well.
Great. Thank you. Joe.
Yeah. I know Becky, you had said that, you didn't have any new complaints or anything like that. I just had a wheelchair repair yesterday, and it wasn't within compliance or anything like that. I from the time that the parts were available, it was within like 13 days, business days. So I mean, it's really not that far out. Like Diane had said, it's only a couple days out of compliance. What I was concerned about was I was looking over the bill last night, and the technician, it was billed for 4.5 hours, and that's at $485 an hour. And in reality, the technician texted me to say that he was on his way, and then text me to leave, and within that time frame it was only 2 hours. So how much are they actually billing, overbilling? And that was a concern that I had. But yeah, as far as within compliance, they were only within a few days out.
I'm glad you got your repair. I don't know that we would necessarily get involved with the billing part unless there's an issue with the payments, and whether or not you could your
Yeah, and Joe, I question that because what you're seeing, I don't know how the tech would send out how you'd see that on the invoice, because the billing units are per 15 minutes on
Yeah,
our contracts with
82.
that, and they're lucky for what, $10 to $14 a billing unit. So you're talking $56 an hour, maybe 50 to $56 an hour is what we get reimbursed.
He
And
billed for 18 units at 15.
Yeah, I'm curious if it goes to what the actual, because there's certain guidelines that MUE edits for those, depending what it is. So like,
Yeah, it was like,
a battery's like 2 units for labor that's typically covered. And if there's something else that's going there, we can't bill for travel time. We can't bill for, it's only the actual time when they get there. They may put an estimate in there. Sometimes they do overestimates for what's an approval on something, depending what the payer is and who the payer is.
Yeah.
So I would question, I mean, don't go by that per se. This is like, don't quote what you see in a retail order for a wheelchair. Okay, because that's not what we're reimbursed. But I would look at that and just kind of see, but for the time frame on it, it's the actual labor track, because we have to put labor track down of how we know when we arrive, we know how many units it is to fix that piece of equipment. And there's certain guidelines each payer has of what they actually cover. And I don't know if one of our payers, our Jeannie, can even say that on here. There's certain things that there's limits on it. So even if you see something, it doesn't necessarily, that's what it's billed.
Okay.
That, if that helps.
Yeah, that helps a little bit, but all right, thank you.
Sheldon.
Yeah, this is a technical point, but I just to say, Joe, when you were saying it was 13 business days after the parts were available, that's not 3 business days of non-compliance. That's more than that, because it's 10 days from the date of the request. The law provides they have to 10 business days from the date of request. You subtract out, and it's, I believe this has always been our understanding, and they're proposing to clarify this is what the intent was, that it's 10 days from the time you call, 10 business days to do the repair. You just stop the clock while they're waiting for parts. So my point is, however many days it took before those parts were ordered, those days count as well. So if it was 13 days after the parts came in, it was probably 13 plus 3 or 4 or 5 or a week more. And so that your case is significantly out of compliance.
Okay, thank you. So moving back to the HIPAA form, Diane, since you're the only one here, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the HIPAA form, you have to have HIPAA compliance. We cannot give out information without the client approving and stating, yes, you have the right to release my information to this other entity, right? Just like we have HIPAA agreements and all that too with all our payers. So when we get complaints, we report that, we follow up with that, we give them information on all those. So we have to get permission in order to give that information outside of what we're getting from whatever. And so that's also, I think, why the form that you guys created originally was for that, because you asked us directly before you, Becky, your predecessor, sent us that stuff. Are you okay with this? Do you have permission? I'm like, absolutely. We will always give information as long as the client gives us permission to do so. Right? That's all we need. And we'll give data back on all that.
The form we have right now, though, is just our OHA. It's our generic form. It's not a form for this committee specifically, right? So it asks for a lot more information than they'd want to be required to have to share. They wouldn't have to give all that information. So I guess what I was thinking of it afterwards when you said, would it be a committee form versus OHA? And I think it would have to come from the committee rather than OHA, because we're not specifically I don't know. I guess it's.
I mean, you have to go by. I'm assuming, though, Becky, not to speak on your behalf, because I don't know your company well enough to say, but I'm sure you got your own policies and procedures. That's probably why you're using your OHA form, because you're
right. Well, so we don't necessarily have to. So, for instance, if they have a HIPAA form, even from you all, like say they gave me a new motions HIPAA release form, right, and they granted permission through new motions, and they sent it to my office and said you have permission to speak with them, right? Well, actually, no, maybe you're right.
No, we need to get permission for us to release to you. Yeah, and so you're going to have to come from you to us, because we need a tracking of that for compliance and our own legal.
Right. So sometimes I just have to play it out sometimes, legally too in my head. So I would so Sheldon, what do you think about this idea? I'm curious, this is attorney thoughts.
I don't know. I'm a little confused by it, to tell you the truth.
Well, I guess because I've heard this is it's been reported to me that they don't like the 4-pager. So, and some people too on the committee said that it's come of a barrier sometimes, that the 4-pager is because they're asking for a lot of extra information. I don't necessarily need to know their insurance. And I've even just told them, don't fill out that part, don't fill out that form, but it's intimidating. And some people are non-vocal, they need other people to assist. And the like, so that I think if it was just a 1-pager, it would be so much more easier, and it wouldn't be so like, I know sometimes when you're dealing with stressful situations, right, and if your wheelchair is broken or if there's other things happening in your life, you don't want to have to fill out a 4-page form. It's like you just look at that and you throw it away sometimes, and you don't go and move to that next step, right? So I don't want to see that happen. So I'm just trying to find some solution for the people that are making these suggestions to me. I'm just wondering how I can be useful and help with that.
I completely agree. If we can get it down to 1 page, it'd be much less intimidating. I have definitely gotten contacted by or had conversations with consumers, wheelchair users who said that I was going to file a complaint with OHA, but geez, they've got this thing. So I agree. If you can get it down, I just don't know the rules of your agency or whatever. So I want to be careful here in what I'm opining about. But definitely for consumers, 1 page would be way better.
But it would be specific so what I'm thinking is if it was on the form, so we're going to have a specific form where you can file your complaint, right? So it's separate and apart from our OHA complaints. So it's going to be a separate whole area. And so if they had the HIPAA release form there too, they could just click on that, fill that out, be able to fill it in all in one step. And it wouldn't be like this if they wanted us to talk to other people and to reach out. So, like I said, I'm new to the committee too, so I'm still like finding my way and finding out what's useful and what's not useful, and just trying to find solutions where I can. So I'm just offering that up as an idea. And I didn't bring it back to my team. I did speak to them a little bit about it too, but I wanted to speak to you all about it and see what your thoughts were first before I really brought it back and we dug in a little bit more.
Thank you. David.
Something I don't think I know, or I don't think I've ever asked, is the OHA form, the release form. that only needs to be filled out and signed once, correct? So like any sort of continuous or future issues where they have to make multiple complaints, they don't have to fill it out multiple times, do they?
Well, what would happen is especially in our release form, there's a box, and you have to say specifically what we're allowed to speak about. So it's not in the future, it's not for the moment, it's for like that one time. So if we might have to modify it or something like that, or you may have to fill out a new form later on down the road, but it's not like a continuous form that goes on to eternity and infinity, because we've been pushed back on a lot of, if that box isn't filled out because we want to make sure that we're being respectful of their rights, right, and their privacy and their healthcare protections. So we have to make sure that it's very concise and clear and specific. So to a point, we like say for instance, it got fixed and then it broke down again and then it got fixed. Like, and it's not years, spread apart. It's somewhat close in time. Then sure, we can go ahead and follow up on that or reopen a case or something like that. But if it's something that's extended out for a few years to the future, then no, we wouldn't be able to do something like that. Or if it's a different type of issue, sometimes too, or so it would depend. I guess that's my answer.
So I guess all right. So say you have say you have like it's a totally different repair, different thing. Like say one day it's a break and the other day it's, something else. So I have to fill out a release form per incident, to be clear. I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Not necessarily. I mean, this is all new too, right? Because we know we're still finding our way with the complaints, right? So when would you close out a complaint? When would you open it? When is a complaint completed, right? When the repair is completed.
Oh, she froze.
So if you had something, hello, can you all hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I don't know where I lost out on y'all, but so David, I was trying to answer your question there. So it would depend on what the significance was of the issue. If it's something similar in nature, we might just have to modify it. Or but it would also depend on like how long was your case closed? Was it open? Is there someone new working on it? Things like that. But as long as it's in our office, you wouldn't necessarily have to fill out a form every single time. It just this would depend, and it's what the complaints are, right? It could be so different, or it may be something. It might be if it's a new motions or an MSM issue, or if it's an insurance issue, that would be something totally different, right? So then you'd have to definitely change the form and change that as well. Because if we're advocating for you on an insurance issue, and that's the barrier if you're not getting your wheelchair repaired, or you need a prior authorization or something like that, then that's a lot different. If the provider is not writing you with the script for it, or if you need that, that's going to be a whole different type of case. So it all depends. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. The couple of times I've made filed complaints, I'd been given 10 questions. I believe it's 10 questions. I took the questions that you guys gave me. I sent it to New Motion. They responded. I took their response email, sent it to you guys, and that's what was used. That's the easiest and fastest way to do it so that you don't have to fill out forms and whatever. But I guess it's more of just what works best for the consumer and what's gonna make the most sense. But that's what worked for me for my complaint. So
the thing is, though, David, that wouldn't give me authority to go ahead and call New Motions or
no, I'm just filing the complaint. I'm not. I like the point is to get the complaint filed. So it's whatever is the most efficient way for that individual to do it. So that's why for me that's what it was done. But for some people they want you guys to call and do it for them. So I understand that.
Yeah, I think sometimes they want a little bit more assistance. So that's what I've been hearing anyways.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's worth pursuing and talking to your team about, and then you can come back to us next month and see where we're at. Or if you get working on a HIPAA form, then you could present it next month and we can talk about it. So Yeah, I think that would be really great for the consumers to, yeah, to be able to utilize you and, yeah, and set up and know that they have some place to go. So that's great.
Yeah, better way would be the company self-report when they don't be in compliance, when they're not in compliance. That'd be the best way to do it, but it's not like that right now, obviously.
Okay, well, we are getting close to the end, so I don't think we have any new business to talk about. So next meeting, oh, we have Sheldon. Yes, Sheldon.
All right, always. Yeah,
Always.
I wanted to, I meant to do this before. We says any other questions for Diana. I tried to raise my hand, it was too late. There's a huge difference, Diane, between NSM and New Motion as far as the in-shop versus in-home. And New Motion has said all along that their goal was to get to 30% in-shop, and they have gotten to that. You are a little over 5%. And Gary asserts that, and I'm sorry he's not here now, but Gary asserts that that's because what consumers want. Now, the fact is, in a newsletter and on the phone, they constantly tell people that if you come in, it will be much faster. So it's not like a neutral thing where people are just saying, oh, I think I'd like to come in. That's my preference. They are being given information that's going to be much faster if they come in. My question to you is there any difference between, same state, roughly the same?
There is, Sheldon.
Okay,
I
what
mean,
is it?
we want people coming to our branches because there's going to be more parts. Even if you order a bunch of parts in, we're not going to be able to put all those parts. Even if you had, like Gary said, 70 parts they're keeping now in there, right, in the shop. There's almost, we can't put all of those 70 parts on a van, right? So chances are, if you do come in, we always want people to come into branch if we can, because it is much quicker and we're able to double check everything. And if there's something we find out, right, during the repair, chances are we can fix it right then and there too, if it's something we don't have to submit, right? If it's depending on a pair or situation. But anyways,
That's not my question. My question was the difference between your clientele versus New Motion.
Well, we have more that are in a nursing home that can't come to our facilities too. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
That's huge. There's a big differential, like he said. He is very limited. We do a ton of nursing home business too. So for us, a lot of it's out in that. I mean, we would love to have more people come into our branch. We always, when you call, and I'm not going to say because I know I got some NSM clients on the horn here. Typically, when we call in, is we ask, can you come into a branch? Because we're always going to ask. Our customer service reps are going to ask, is there any chance you can come in for that repair? Okay. All right. If not, when you do it, okay, can we get this set up? What's gonna, we'll go through those steps. But you'll have on our sites everything on there. We typically have the same options. It's the options, right? We always want. It's always going to be a little bit more efficient for us in the branch, right? Just the nature of the business. But the historical, because everything's been done in a home for year after year after year after year, and I get it. But if you're down, you're down. You can't come to the branch, right? So that's a moot point. But if there's something simple and something that's easy and your chair's functioning and you can swing by, great. But again, locations, right? And we don't have in Connecticut much transportation that we need and stuff versus some other states, right? Where you live in a metropolitan area, there's more services and stuff and buses and that can work, but it's not always easy either. So, and we used to do a lot of things in seating clinics and stuff, but that since COVID kind of went away. So there's multiple things that we were doing to do those type of things, but it's just the way of nature of the beast right now for us. The majority of our clients don't want to come in, so we go out. And would we love them to come to branch? Absolutely. It helps us so many different ways on so many levels, but it is what it is.
The one thing that New Motion does by the evidence is that when you call and they ask if you want to come to the shop, they actually, two things. One is they don't actually, and I know Gary's not here to respond, and so I could have it wrong, and he would disagree. But we've spoken to people who have said that it's not said would you like to come into the shop. It's that when can you come into the shop? It's presented as this is the option, and then when the person asks, I'd like you to come out, then you're told it's going to be a lot longer.
Well,
If
that's not a lie. I mean, because think about it. Most of our people, if he has more people, I think. I'm not sure how many techs he has in shop. So like our one location with the one person in shop, we're not going to bring a lot of people. It's going to be scheduled out 2 days out, probably typically when we do that. Whereas our other location where we have more people who are actually building chairs and have more in shop, we can say, hey, this one, you know, are you able to come in the next 2 or 3 days with it or have someone bring it in? We have this in the shop. Otherwise, okay, let's get the RSS eval done, and then let's get the evaluation on the books. Let's get this scheduled and that. So that's a lot of the manual process. That's what I was kind of saying before. This whole bill and how everything is set up to the dates like you were talking about, Sheldon. You call in, starts the clock, get the evaluation, hopefully get done within that 24-hour period, a remote. If that doesn't work, then we got to get the eval done. The eval's got to get done. We're putting a 3-day timeline because there's no way in God's green earth we can meet the timelines, even with if we do have to get a prior auth from say the primary insurance, or if we have to get a part ordered in because it's something that's not on our shelf already for that client, then that stops the clock, and then we got to go look, and then as soon as that part comes in, the clock starts over again. So I have to go manually, like, oh my God, I got 2 days now to get to this client in their home, and then we got to schedule it. Like, does this work? Does this not work? Type of thing. So it's a manual process, and so that's where I'm kind of saying it will always be faster in a branch, hands down, always, always. If it works, I mean, that's just the nature of it, right? So even if you're to say, okay, I can come in the branch and say, great, what part do we think we got? If we did a remote diagnostic, we look on your chair, say, oh, I see this component. It's not a simple thing. I got to get this from the manufacturer. We see that, we call, we put the PO into the manufacturer, we get it within 5 days. We can say, okay, 5 days from now, I'm going to have it in shop. Can you come in that day? If not, okay, then I'm going to have to schedule it. And I have to look at the techs already scheduled on that 5 days out. So that means day 6 or 7 or 8, because by that time, once you pass that, we're out of compliance for the 10 business days. So that's the manual process that we've been doing. And that's what we have 2 people dedicated to, just to look at every single repair order that comes in, when that part comes in on the shelf, calling the person and getting it scheduled, and then trying to manually get the routes. Not, like I said, it's so inefficient. I have 3 techs in one area in one day. That just ticked me off. I'm like, well, it's what we had to do in order to be compliant. So even you can have the best routing software in the world, it isn't going to accommodate how this bill is written and what we have to do. And so then there's some techs now are getting doubled up because, well, yeah, all 3 of you in one area because it's a timeline. And so these are the things that we're trying to work out. And that's the reality. I mean, that's what we're doing. It's a lot of manual.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, just because your compliance numbers are so much better than new motions, I'm just curious, like, what would your opinion be? Why do you think you're doing a better job than new motion as far as compliance numbers?
We had, David, sorry to interrupt, but as I
Okay.
kind of shared, I think the month prior before that. So we had service level agreements that were already established in around the nation, like Kaiser Project, okay? So we have a capitation agreement with Kaiser for the past 20 plus years. And there's service level agreements in there, and there's tracking systems that we already had built. It's the IT system. It's all around tracking and data. It's all about building up the IT system. So we had an IT system already kind of had, which New Motion doesn't do. So it's our agreement. So we've had a system in place for tracking in our IT systems for the customers and how that works and tracking some of these things. Now, with the bill, how it was designed, once it finally went, once it was finalized in May, we literally had a month to figure out how to adapt that to the rule. So it took us a couple months because if you know anything about IT development, when you're building systems in and putting all those little nuances in, like, is it this? Like, I'm tracking date of eval, delivery, time when it goes in with the PO, all those things that are in that bill outline, you have to build that into your IT system to track that. So we had the ability, unlike most other providers are probably not going to have that because they weren't in that same scenario. They got to build it. But it's all manual. Now I have it done where we finalized at the end of December, and we did a couple tweaks last in January too, with some extra asks that are coming from this committee, even though it's not in the bill, but we're putting it in there we're able to track all that now. So we're using that database on now. That's why I was able to give you real time all the way up through Friday of last week for this report. That's why I was able to give you all of February and all of through March 21st, because we already have it pre-programmed. The only thing we have to go back in is all the misses that we see. Why is that? Then we go back and see what the reason is, because we have all that tracked in our system. Either our customer service reps are noting it or our techs are noting it in the system, what the reasons for is, and we're pulling that out. And that's why I'm able to give you the detail report that you're seeing as my summation. But it's a lot, it's a big, it's not something you can buy off the shelf. It's not something that can be done. It had to be developed.
Thanks, Diane. So we had a couple of good points right at the end. So if you want to discuss this further next month, just let us know. We can add it to the agenda. But we do have to wrap up. And next meeting, is this still remote, Brianne?
Yes, it'll continue to be
Yes.
remote through session.
Okay. Do we want to just make the next meeting TBA for now, or do you have a date in
I
mind?
think that works.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.